What's one type you'll never date again? Horse girls. Used to spend $800 a month helping my ex-wife with her passion. We were both making like $25,000 to $30,000 a year then. But hey, I really didn't mind. I loved the hell out of that woman. Then she left me for her coworker literally the day after I brought up, for the first time in our 7 years together, the idea of, hey, maybe we can figure out a way to cut these horse expenses. We can't afford to take care of 2 horses on our income. She stormed out, didn't come home until 2 a.m. and left the next day. Never came back. Then, 1 year later, I got a career opportunity making 6 figures and she's still poor as hell. I would have been happy to keep supporting her for the rest of our lives, but bye. Sucks to suck. Sucks to be a narcissist. Story 2. Extroverts. Most of the time, I like to chill out at home with just the 2 of us without having a massive bridge of people to see and an itinerary of places to go all the time. Thankfully, my wife is even more introverted than me, so we have our own little world together behind a well-guarded gate that only a few close and trusted friends are allowed into. Story 3. Anyone who's dated a substance user and gotten out knows to steer clear. Not that anyone would choose to date a user in the first place, but there are signs you might not recognize the first time around. What seems like a free spirit having fun, partying, after some time and clarity can show themselves as a flaky, unreliable, responsibility avoidant mess who's capable of throwing you in the gutter to appease their own substance-serving priorities. I have pity for alcoholics and users, but I stop short of sympathy because I know the feeling would never be reciprocated at the expense of their next fix. Story 4. Very progressive lesbians. They make their whole personality about politics. Like sometimes I just want to go dancing or enjoy a movie. And they bring up a very depressing topic 24/7. Can't enjoy the movie because Donald Trump is president. Also, the 2 girls I dated like this both cheated on me and then gaslit into thinking it was somehow my fault. Like I even had the chance to get a girl's number last weekend, but we were at a pretty popping gay bar. It was pretty awesome, and she wouldn't shut up about Palestine, which is fine if you care. It's great, even. But on a Friday when I just want to unwind, that's the last thing I want to think about. Story 5. New agey spiritual type. I worked my bum off to pay our rent and keep us fed while he borrowed money from his rich daddy to gallivant all over the world for various retreats or gatherings or vision quests. I went to one with him once where they were speaking in tongues, channeling archangels, and losing their crap over a clearly modern man-made crystal skull that they were trying to claim was an ancient relic with magical powers that was found in a cave in a rainforest or some crap. That was basically the end of our relationship. I lost every bit of attraction I ever had for him after that trip. Story 6. Gosh darn dare ya chicks. The expressionless face, the monotone voice, the constant complaining and misanthropic attitude. It was exhausting. Anytime she'd start to get excited, she would actively try to hide it because she thought the nonchalant appearance was the height of coolness. When I finally broke up with her, she cried and moped around the park outside of my apartment for like 3 weeks, listening to the yeah-yeah-yeahs and Tegan and Sarah all day. Now she has face tattoos, is in a throuple. Story 7. The high-drama women who are always gunning for a fight, are always mad at somebody. As soon as they patch things up, someone will say some innocuous thing to them that on any other day would have passed without notice, but in that day, they'll be a conspiracy theorist, overanalyzing every tone, facial tic, and syllable until they conclude they were insulted somehow. Then the new feud begins. You will inevitably become the target. You will spend your time walking on eggshells around them, unsure if there's a feud vacuum in any given day. These people are not happy unless they're fighting with someone. They literally cannot stand not having an enemy. They think in total black and white, with me or against me terms. Whenever I meet someone like this and it becomes clear this is the kind of person they are, I ditch them. No contact. I can't handle someone where the rules are constantly changing without warning. Nobody's worth losing my sanity over. You might say, if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best, but to that I say if I can't handle you at your worst, your best is probably crap and I don't want that either. Story 8. Boarding school, old money Boston lawyer family type. Fox in the sack and smart and beautiful, but their minds are almost psychotic in the sense regarding how other people are just things and their ability to be cold-hearted and get over things like they never happened. Couldn't make me date another, no matter how hot or rich or sincere they came across. Human trash. Story 9. I'm not even sure I can articulate this, but this goes beyond dating for me and into the category of people who can screw all the way off. It's a combination of a lot of traits that always go together. Always. Number 1, refers to everyone as a narcissist. If you do that, you're the narcissist. Number 2, highly possessive and tries to insert themselves into every single aspect of your life. Every disagreement, regardless of who it's with, they want to be a part of. Number 3, cannot, in any capacity, handle criticism and generally blow up anytime you express that something upsets you. Number 4, role switchers, and not in a fun way. These are the people who screwed up, know they screwed up, and instead try to make you feel like crap about them screwing up. Run. Run the hell away. Number 5, massively inconsistent. They expect you to stop the world for them, but will not be bothered to ever be there for you. If they are there for you, they will most likely make the situation harder and about them in some capacity. Number 6, actions not meeting words. If you don't want to do something, tell me you don't want to do it. Don't express an interest and get mad at me for actually trying to do it. Literally anyone who says, "You made me do this." I don't give a crap who they are. Get the hell away. If you're an adult who ever says the sentence, see a therapist immediately and learn some accountability. Story 10. The type that talks to every female that shows him the time of day. The one that lies and tells you you're the only one he's interested in. The one that becomes too busy to talk to you out of nowhere and then pops up with a girlfriend shortly after. After he met your parents and took you out on a date and made you his girlfriend the week before and then never really talks to you again. Tells you were never his girlfriend, and then on the rare occasion you see each other in public, decides to stare at you when you're within view of him, all the while behind his girlfriend. That type. By the way, all the same person. That girlfriend didn't last long. Had 2 more, I think, after her. Engaged to someone now that's my age. He's about 5 years older. Yes, I'm legal. For the last 2 or 3 years. I don't wish bad on him, but I want nothing to do with him anymore. I still want to see him eat, just not at my table, kind of thing. Story 11. Aside from the obvious cheater, liar, emotionally unavailable stuff, number 1, the one who only listen and say nothing themselves. I know the popular idea that girls want a guy who would listen to them and never interrupt, but as a talkative woman myself, I find that if I date someone too quiet, then not only am I the only one dragging the whole conversation and the whole relationship, but also I learned by now that too quiet guys tend to have their own emotional baggages that you don't find out until it's too late. It's fine if he's generally a quiet and an introverted type of person, but he has to be comfortable blabbering with me. I don't find you have to let him open up a reasonable excuse. It is okay if someone is that type, but it's not for me, and I'm not going to be putting extra stress on myself to try and get a man to talk. Number 2, men who have a pattern of women who are not like me. Could be a specific ethnicity, style, or aesthetic, or culture, or lifestyle. Anything that gives me the vibe of he has a type and it's not me, and I don't give a damn how much he tries to convince me that I'm exceptional. Story 12. Flakes. I had one that kept asking to reschedule our date. It happened twice before I bounced. The first time it happened, I reached out to him the night before the date to make sure we were still good to go, and he said he couldn't because he worked. I was very confused because he was the one who scheduled the date to begin with. I decided to brush it off and let him reschedule. The second time it happened to be my birthday, and he asked to reschedule because it was Super Bowl Sunday. I just never contacted him again. Another guy I dated would just never bother to reach out to me first. I realized that if we were messaging or hanging out, it was only because I initiated. I'm not sure if he was trying to play hard to get, but it was a turnoff for me. You could argue that maybe he just wasn't into me, but it was the one who asked me out to begin with. I remember venting to a friend of mine about it, and he called him a flake. Last year, I married that friend instead. Best decision ever. Story 13. People who are intelligent enough to identify things they need to work on, but don't. I often fall for the nerdy but damaged folks who initially really love how much patience I have with them. They feel comfortable expressing themselves to me, until they feel overexposed in their vulnerability and lash out horribly. This type of person just wants to be loved even when they don't love themselves, rather than trying to become a version of themselves who inspires love. Story 14. Not really a type, but people who enjoy harmless flirting. Can't excuse it. Not sorry. Not sure why anyone would find it entertaining if they have a special person to give to and receive from. I love my boyfriend and couldn't imagine giving any guy thousands of the affection or attention he gets from me. Vice versa for him. Spent years with someone who gave off major red flags for being shallow and unfaithful, and you can guess what one of those flags were. It always has the opportunity to turn into something more when they leave the door cracked open. I felt that pain and worry in my chest. Story 15. Introverts. I'm married to an introvert and I love them, but if I were to date again, I want someone who taps into my other side. Always awake, always busy, always keen to go places and do weird things. I had one relationship with a fellow true extrovert, and while it probably wasn't that healthy, it's like a relationship in brilliant technicolor rather than soothing sepia tones. I was having this discussion with a colleague who used to be a spontaneous trip interstate or spontaneously getting a new job kind of guy, but obviously toned it down when he got married. You can have an idyllic home life that's very comfortable and relaxed, but if you have that side to you, it's always going to be there, restless and a fly in the ointment of life. Story 16. The boundary stomper. There's a huge difference between wanting me to go out of my comfort zone versus being pressured or coerced into something in order to appease a man for his benefit or to keep him in my life. When I go outside my comfort zone, it's because I'm doing it for myself on my own terms and conditions. I hate when a man tries to act like he knows me better than literally myself, or tries to tell me I'm being a prude or not being fun, or he just flat out doesn't respect that no is a complete sentence. This goes for matters inside and outside the bedroom. Story 17. The misunderstood, depressed loner with low self-esteem, insecurity, and no friends. Often feels the whole world has wronged him. He claims to be so honest and works so hard but gets nothing. His horrible, crazy, cheating ex traumatized him. Spends all his time at home on his computer. These are the victims. I've given a few of them a chance. In my experience, they will cheat. They will lie. They will leech off of you and treat you like crap while taking responsibility for none of it. That was the worst mistake of my life. They destroyed me mentally and they don't care at all. Story 18. My ex was incredibly attractive. Her mixed heritage created a unique blend of features that my younger self found irresistible. The only problem was she constantly expected my attention. She would call me every night, seemingly just to have my focus, diverting me from working out, studying, or doing homework while we were in high school. Our dates could be quite chaotic. She would distract me while I was driving, even after I asked her to stop because it was unsafe. Her immaturity also showed in small ways, like whining if I denied her a treat from a fast food place or the grocery store. She could also be unkind. She once told me my face was ugly, and another time, after I made her a sandwich, she looked at me dismissively and asked, "No drink?" She would also show me videos of her getting into fights and cheering on friends in chaotic situations. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore, and I ended the relationship. I admit, I felt a boost in my ego when we were intimate or when I was showing her off around town. However, whenever we were being physical or I wasn't showcasing her, I found it difficult to be around her. In her defense, I take responsibility for my part. I really shouldn't have been with her in the first place. I treated her too much like an object instead of a person. As a teenager, I was shallow and not emotionally mature enough to handle a committed, mutually beneficial relationship. Even though we weren't good for each other, I look back on it with some fondness because I learned a lot about what a challenging relationship looks like. I hope she's not bitter, and I wish her the best wherever she is. Yes, never again. Story 19. It's hard to translate to English, but the type, there's no obligations in relationships, or I don't owe you anything. This crap can work when you both are 16 and just want to have some fun. This crap doesn't work in long-term relationships. When you're living together, both have invested a lot of effort and even money in your relationships and even have kids because you owe crap tons of everything to each other, not materially speaking. Story 20. Clingy with poor people skills and victim mentality. Can't really know these things until you've dated a few months. She managed to make the worst first impression of my friends possible and get mad that they didn't like her, burn bridges with half her friends, classmates, and coworkers, and had to hear all about how it's all everyone else's fault and that she's a blameless victim. Then to top it all off, she simply did not respect my time spent without her, even though we'd be together 4 to 5 days a week. And she'd be trying to text me nonstop to the point where I can't physically do anything else. She later had the audacity to complain that I didn't do enough for her when, in reality, I did everything she asked and she did nothing but receive. After a breakup, just proceeded to lie to all her family and friends about me, saying I'd mistreated her physically and mentally, even going as far as posting text bombs in social media, which, by the way, is filled with other stories of her complaining about everything else in her life. Truly an unstoppable force of negative energy. Story 21. Someone who still craves the attention of people they should have left behind a long time ago. Ex-boyfriends, old friends, people who she left behind for good reason. If you still crave their attention, approval, and freaking affection, you haven't left them behind and you need to work on that. Symptoms: dating every person more than once, having falling outs with friends but getting back together when it's convenient. Also, people-pleasing someone on a level that disregards someone that already likes you. Basically, juggling the approval and happiness of people around you because you crave the attention of everyone at once. Story 22. I just don't think I'll ever date anyone again, in general. I was in a 12-year relationship with my ex. Would have been 15 years, but we broke up for 3 years in the middle, and she passed away 3 years after we went our separate ways. The idea of entering any new relationship feels exhausting and just not worthwhile. I value my autonomy and independence like never before. I read a New York Times article recently which described the concept of solo poly, where you remain a single person who occasionally sleeps with different partners. I guess that'll be me, if I ever regain any interest in connecting with other humans romantically again. Story 23. Even if I found myself single again, happily partnered for 8 years, married for more than 5, introverts who clearly wish they were extroverts or are in denial that they wish they were extroverts. I cannot be your only friend. If I decide to have plans with friends for the night and you've been given adequate warning that it's my plan, heck, even if it's spur of the moment when we don't have responsibilities that aren't work and each other, it should not be the end of the world. I tell my wife I have plans to hang out with a few buddies I haven't seen in a while. She's got friends she can hang out with, or she has her own hobbies to indulge in, or she's cool with a night by herself. If I told my ex I had plans, even weeks in advance, she'd throw a fit about it when I told her, throw a fit again the day of, all because she was such a miserable piece of crap. She both couldn't handle being with other people and couldn't handle being left out from fun she was already invited to. If I were single again, I probably just wouldn't deal with introverts or actually people who can't deal with other human beings ever again. And I say that as someone who's autistic. Story 24. I know this might sound harsh, so I want to be careful and preface it by saying that avoiding certain situations is crucial for my well-being and doesn't mean these individuals aren't worthy of love. Here goes. I've learned to be cautious about relationships with people who are struggling with mental illness, especially those who haven't actively sought help. Of course, if someone has genuinely worked on themselves, addressed their issues, triggers, and continues to do so regularly, I wouldn't write them off. We're all human, we all struggle, and we all deserve love and support. However, if you're managing your own mental health challenges, it can be incredibly difficult to care for and support a partner who also has mental health struggles without sacrificing your own well-being. The reason I'm more cautious now about partners with self-proclaimed or diagnosed mental health issues stems from my first girlfriend. I didn't know about her struggles when we started dating. About a month into our very new relationship, she attempted to harm herself. I wasn't present until after she was discharged from the hospital, and looking back, I'm not entirely convinced it wasn't a manipulative tactic to keep me attached. Regardless, the evening it happened, she texted me from the hospital. The whole situation left me incredibly panicked and worried. We texted sporadically, but it was hard to get regular updates from her over the next few days. I offered to visit her at the hospital, but she refused. Since our relationship was so new, I hadn't even met her family yet, plus I lived an hour away with a busy work schedule. I was admittedly somewhat relieved. After a couple of days, we finally met up and she unloaded years of trauma and issues on me. Struggles with eating disorders, self-harm, anxiety and panic attacks, depression, stories of cruel parenting, attachment issues, and feeling of abandonment, along with all the experiences of growing up gay in a small town. As much as I cared about her and wanted to help, I also struggled with my own mental health, primarily depression with accompanying anxiety, periodic self-harm, past alcohol misuse, and the entire situation was incredibly triggering for me. However, I repressed my own feelings and did whatever I could to be there for her, and she certainly leaned on me. She did start therapy, but she would still consistently offload all her feelings and daily struggles onto me. Being open and honest about difficult things is an important part of a relationship, but I've learned that boundaries are crucial too. I made my own mistakes by not being honest about what she shouldn't share with me. Is that fair to ask? I'm still not sure. I think the deeper we got, the more she used her mental health struggles to make everything about her. And as an excuse for me to share things I wasn't ready to, just to even things out, I began to pull away as the months went on, but the thought of leaving her made me feel immensely guilty, even when I knew it was the right thing to do. Of course, many other factors contributed to the breakdown of our relationship. She was a couple of years younger than me, and our maturity levels weren't aligned. She was far more attached than I was, and needed more from our relationship than I was willing or able to give. There were also signs in my own life that I hadn't worked through, which I honestly don't think I could have realized until I was in my first relationship. Now I've promised myself that I won't enter another romantic relationship until I'm in a much better, more secure place with my mental health and have the tools to deal with triggering moments. However, even with all the work I do and will continue to do, I believe it will always be more beneficial for me to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't struggle in the same ways I do. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 25. Girls with serious daddy issues. I'm sorry your father cheated and left your mother and you haven't seen him in 15 years, but that doesn't mean I'm going to cheat on you if I go to my friend's house for a fantasy football draft on a Tuesday night. Yes, this argument happened when I was single with an ex years before I met my wife. She insisted on coming. I firmly said no. She also would lose her crap if I went to a poker night at a friend's apartment. She showed up to a poker game once with some pizza and snacks for us and kept asking to play. After 15 minutes, I apologized to my friends and we left. Guys just sometimes need a night out to chill amongst themselves. They ate the pizza. Lol. I'd never even think of crashing her salon or spa dates with her girlfriends. Why would I? She never accepted that comparison. Needless to say, we didn't last long. Story 26. Handbag obsessed women. It's not about the money, it's about the bags. It's the fact that, without exception, every single lady I've seen that shares the same obsession also comes with a spoiled brat attitude that ruins everything. They might look pretty, but they're all about drama and wanting things. Once you get them the bag they want, they flip a good girl switch and will give you an amazing experience, both socially and intimately, but eventually it wears out and they will want other bags. It doesn't seem that bad at first, but each bag must be better, more expensive, than the one you gave them the last time, and also the good girl switch stays on for less time. They're thankful for a month in the first bag, but after 5 years together, their thankfulness will last just a couple days before they're back into witchy mode again. Asia is full of those types. Be careful. Story 27. Schmucks. Sorry, schmucks, but I won't date someone who makes fun of other people, flips others off, says bad words on a regular basis, and constantly complains. I don't need that negative energy in my life. Introverted guys. I'm an introverted woman, but have always been attracted to extroverts. I tried to date an introvert who showed interest in me, but he would barely message me because he didn't want to bother me. Just no. I hate having to be the one to reach out all the time just to communicate, and it's not fair at all. I didn't want to rush the relationship, despite us dating for a whole year and we'd only ever kissed and held hands, nothing more, so yeah, maybe he wasn't that interested in me. Ended up getting to an FWB with an extrovert guy, and at least he messages me every day. We go out shopping whenever we weren't working, go out to eat once in a while, take trips, and so on. Sorry, introverts, but you need to step up your game more. If I can do it, so can you. Story 28. Gonna get hate for this one, but a gamer. I don't mean someone who has a gaming hobby. I mean someone who didn't lift a finger while you moved in with them because they were in the middle of a game, binge-type gamer. Someone that never once came with you to the hospital to support you while your mom was suffering because he was too busy gaming. Them types of gamers. Story 29. Extremely low self-esteem is why I will end up leaving my husband. He's the type who requires financial success to feel acceptable as a person. This low self-esteem means he is extremely hurt by any criticism, as well as imagining criticisms for me when they are not present. For example, last night he worked late and came to bed late. I was asleep already, woke up, and very gently reminded him to be sure that the bathroom door was closed when he was finished brushing his teeth. Closing the bathroom door is necessary so the dog would not get into the bathroom and cause issues that might wake us up later. My husband says to himself, "Well, I guess I'm just in the way. I'm sorry, I'm always in the way." It was so weird. Then when I asked him why he was talking like that about himself, he lied and said he was not. I wasn't even bothered that he was coming to bed late and I was earlier supportive of him working late. But he imagines I'm angry when I'm not. He interprets the slightest negative emotion, like being tired or sad, as anger. So bizarre. I know it stems from low self-esteem, leaves me feeling like he cannot have any emotions. Story 30. People who can't see their lives improving in any way. I have clinical depression. I'm okay now, actually better than I've ever been, but I went to some dark places in the past. Everything you can imagine, but no matter what, I always tried to improve my life. I made a lot of mistakes, but in the end, it worked out. I know it may seem easy to say, "Oh, you should try," but I'm saying as a person who has experienced the worst that depression can bring, even at my lowest, I never gave up. And some people use mental illness as crutches to excuse their way of life. I'll gladly help and support anyone in need that genuinely tries to get better, but people who don't make even the slightest effort are just like people drowning. They drag you with them. And I'm tired of getting dragged back to dark places, and I know that not everyone can go to therapy or escape some crappy situations. I know life can be hard, but if you're comfortable in the darkness, you'll never leave it. Story 31. Someone who is autistic, which is ironic because I'm very positive that I'm autistic. I say this because dating felt very isolating. I wanted so desperately to connect with them and have a conversation, but I felt like they didn't want to put in effort or they just preferred making music over a relationship. I tried for 4 freaking years with this guy. I tried to explain over and over how I felt. He ended up dumping me because he wanted to sleep with other women. Screw that noise. I also dated an anxious guy, and that was interesting, to say the least. Story 32. Social butterfly. He was great at socialization. He'd make a friend out of almost anyone he met. This resulted in him constantly spending time away with me because he has 800 other friends that he just had to spend time with, to the point where it ends up feeling like I'm spending less time with him than some of these random friends he's made. It was an awful experience, and as terrible as it sounds to say, I'm probably going to mostly seek after people who are much less socially capable and also value the concept of quality over quantity when it comes to relationships. Story 33. The type where everything they tell you about themselves sounds way too interesting and like something out of a movie. Yeah, it turned out she was a pathological liar, or something close to that. The only thing she ever told me that I believe is that she had to eat something weird during wartime back in her birth country. I believe this because it's the only thing she ever told me that didn't make her and her life sound fantastical. I'm older now, and I'm fairly sure she did it because she hated her life. Like she said she was really against substances, but I'm pretty sure she was selling them because one evening a dude who obviously knew her walked up to her and asked if she was holding, and she tried to whisper, "Not right now." I was too young to really pick up on it all back then, which is probably why she picked me. She was 11 years older than me at 30, and she needed someone naive to believe her constant lies. I feel sad for her at this point, thinking back on it. Story 34. Someone from a judgmental family and friend group. Being around him, his friends, or his family always made me feel like my every move was being monitored and remembered. I felt like I constantly had to perform as if he was just with me to have someone to present to his social circle. He would never address issues as they happened. Instead, a small disagreement would escalate into him listing every single problem he had with me and everything I'd supposedly done wrong. Most of these were things I had no idea were even an issue, often just miscommunications that he'd let fester because they were never addressed in the moment. Story 35. The pretty cheap greedy type. That scammer type that tells me to use my card, says he will give me cash but ends up shorting me, then says, "Was it enough?" No, mother trucker, it wasn't enough. You knowingly shorted me by acting like you didn't do it on purpose. The unemployed type, sucking greedily on the teeth of his government for handout after handout. A failure and loser at everything, but everything is someone else's fault. The type that keeps inviting you to his country to stay with him, but turns out he still takes his laundry home to his 70-year-old lung cancer survivor mother as a 35-year-old man-child. Him being unqualified and unready to invite anyone to stay with him is an understatement, because he had to get so much stuff, and then turns around and resents you for making him do everything. Instead of thinking, well, I did invite her. And 2 days after you return to your home country, he drops an expense breakdown and demands he be reimbursed after his invitation and insistence. Story 36. The insecure type. It's fine and normal to have insecurities. It's different if you are just insecure. Dating an insecure person, they will take everything from you to make themselves feel secure. You can't even take care of yourself because that would mean you aren't actively validating and reassuring them. Sometimes this is even in the form of a know-it-all, trying to force their opinions to be yours so they can feel smart and validated. Lone wolves. I would date someone who doesn't have a solid friend group or someone who doesn't know them. All of them. Dated someone with several friend groups and each group only knew a part of them, so no one knew all the BS going on. Accountability is important and healthy. It also keeps one safe from being the therapist, the parental figure, and also lets me know there's someone else to call them on their BS if there ever is any. Story 37. I will not date an insecure person again. I will not date someone obsessed with my previous intimate life again. You are objectively weird for obsessing over this, and it is incels' direct result in the media that more men care about this than the last 30 years. I don't know what you expect me to do. Unhave intimacy with someone? Not have intimacy with anyone ever on the off chance they're a bad dude so that you feel more special? Like, did we not cover this in The Girl Next Door? Didn't Bob Marley cover this? So many guys are like, "Murr, when I was 20, I was stupid, but I didn't sleep with 10 guys. I watched you eat a Tide Pod and drink vodka out of a toilet. Like, you just didn't have 10 women willing, and you're bitter she did. Get some confidence." And my body count was literally 1 when I entered this obsession. Weird and creepy and immature. Story 38. The immediately overly clingy type. My son's father was like this. I stupidly ignored the red flags when he was weirdly eager to hang out with me, even though I had only met him the day before. I just got him my neighbors to buy a cigarette and I didn't realize he was her son. The very next day, around 7 or 8 a.m., he was at my house, wanting to hang out. I was a bit weirded out by it, but I figured, okay, I guess I'll hang out and just be friends if nothing else. Well, that was a huge mistake. He quickly became ridiculously obsessed and incredibly controlling. He was also very physically cruel, even when I was pregnant with her son. That man put me through absolute hell. However, I wouldn't change my initial decision because it got my son out of everything I went through, and I can't even imagine my life without my munchkin. He's my little buddy. Story 39. Astrology and card reading. And taken to a certain extreme can be a clear gateway to either religion or, more often, superstitious beliefs. If you truly believe your date of birth or a random card selection can accurately predict your day, week, or future, you're likely more susceptible to strange conspiracies and overall bigotry. I once dated a girl who was deeply into that kind of stuff. We eventually broke up and she started dating a dealer and doing substances, not just grass. She supposedly went to the same college I did, but I never once saw her there. I heard she repeated a year and then dropped out. I have friends now who believe in some of these things, but clearly not to the same extent. Still, I find it quite odd. At least religions often provide a kind of textbook with rules to live by and recommendations. Astrology, however, often feels like a mirror you can gaze into to simply justify why you are the way you are. Story 40. I feel this could describe me. I isolate myself, and while I'm a user, alcoholic, in recovery, I've had my lapses. I moved to a town over 3 hours away from everything I've known and everyone I love, hoping for a new start. However, when I do see people, I tend to ramble, flitting from one topic to another, my mouth moving as fast as my mind. It's like I'm trying to unload years of experiences in just 30 minutes. I don't want pity. I can't stand it. I just want someone to listen, as I'm screaming out for support but not truly getting any. Closest person to me collapsed and passed away in my flat just over 10 weeks ago. He was only 47. No one truly knows the fear and how they'll react in such a situation when they're alone, doing CPR until paramedics arrive. The trauma and grief are immense. I've been pushing it down and suppressing it with my prescribed medication. My doctor has, in a way, been my dealer for years, and I'm having days and nights here and there using substances. My key worker is proving to be unhelpful. Story 41. The I'm too mentally ill to hold down a job type. Sure, there are lots of disabled people out there who can't hold down a job, and a lot of those people can because their brains are on fire. But if you can't be bothered to get help, get diagnosed, see a therapist, and be told, "Bro, you shouldn't be working," then you need to help me pay the bills. On the same line of logic, the "I won't get a job because capitalism" type makes my skin itch. I shouldn't be working doubles and 9 days in a row to barely survive while someone is at home, staring at a computer, saying that capitalism sucks in a Discord chat. Story 42. The "okay, whatever you think is best, babe" type that I've been married to for 16 years. They haven't developed their own independent thought or confidence, so they just hitch their rag into yours. They become very dependent. They don't have their own ambitions or drive in life other than how obsessed and in love with you they are. They adore you and are devoted to you, and it can feel super lovely and sweet, but eventually you realize that they rely on you for 100% of their emotional, social, mental, and physical needs. You end up feeling like you're the sole manager and decision maker of everything in your lives. They don't take initiative on pretty much anything and need to be either told what to do or at least run everything by you to be sure it's the right decision. That's exhausting. Leads to resentment and eventually loss of attraction. I love them with all my whole heart and we still get along great and respect each other, but because I've been put into the parental or mentor role for so long, with no improvement after countless conversations and pleas for trying therapy to address it, my attraction for them is gone, unfortunately. It's heartbreaking because the last thing I ever wanted to do to them was hurt them, but I can't force attraction. Story 43. I won't date anyone again whose friends badmouth them, then behave like nothing was said when they were around. I had an ex whose friends would talk so much crap about him when he wasn't there. It turns out they didn't think I was good enough for him and were trying to get me to dump him, so I could look like the witch, and they made him the victim. Their plan backfired. They ended up dumping me 2 days before Valentine's Day. They tried crawling back and asking to hang out again. I ditched the whole lot of them. The lesson learned from this is to watch what their friends say about them, and how they behave around them after they say it. Are they playing you or them? Either way, it's a red flag. Story 44. Someone with low self-esteem often lacks ambition and confidence above all. Specifically due to this lack of confidence, they don't communicate openly, have trouble standing up to those around them, and as a result, bring that stress into the relationship. Ultimately, they don't inspire me. I truly wish them well, but someone who doesn't love themselves won't be able to love anyone else well. Worst of all, they'll expect you to save them from themselves, which simply isn't possible. I don't believe in the I'll take care of you, you take care of me dynamic. I want someone who believes, I take care of myself so well you can depend on me when you need me. Story 45. Alcoholics. It's a terrible disease that turns otherwise good people into awful partners. Perpetually broke people. Moochers. People that have zero awareness for give and take. I'm not talking about folks who hit a rough patch and get laid off. I'm talking about folks who never seem to be able to hold down a job or provide for themselves without the assistance of others. I resent the term gold digger getting thrown around at women who expect their partners to be financially healthy. It's been my experience that fiscally imbalanced relationships just breed resentment and end with one person digging themselves out from underneath debt. Money isn't everything, and transactional relationships are fine so long as everyone agrees to it, but income is one of the most important things in a partnership. I have a right to protect my own financial interests against sad sacks. It isn't shallow to not love someone for who they are if they're draining you dry. Story 46. Bisexual women. I don't know what it is, but they just tend not to be so trustworthy. But they're tons of fun. They actually captivate me. I've crushed on about 3 of them so far, and I feel like they're always so similar. Non-physically touchy women. I don't know how to explain, but my love language is physical touch, so those are out of the window. I'm just not doing it. Career women. I might date one of them again, but they tend to be super high maintenance and expect a lot. Plus, they also happen to have a strong manliness, that kind of relationship, because sometimes you feel like you're arguing with another boy. Story 47. My ex was one of those the world is against me types who wasn't capable of going 10 minutes without finding something to complain about. Even if it had zilch to do with him, he could twist any situation to make it about him. He also wasn't able to be happy for anyone else. Anytime anything good happened to someone, the first words out of his mouth were, must be nice. Oh, and God forbid he'd be mildly inconvenienced over anything, ever. Yuck. Just remembering how awful and oppressive living with him was makes me want to drive my car into a brick wall. Even having not had contact with him in over 3 years, I would wake up tomorrow and cheerfully drain my finances all over again just to divorce him a second time if that were a thing. Story 48. A mama's boy or girl or person. I need my partner to be able to set clear and firm boundaries with anyone they need, to include their partners. Not to mention that if you're in a serious adult relationship, the person you're with should come first and be the most important person in your life. I've seen so many horror stories of people who miss their child's birth for their mom's birthday party or let their parents treat their spouse like crap. I'd never let my parents do that to my partner, and I'd never be with another person who'd let their family do that to me. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're gonna love this. Catch you in that video.